Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by a radioactive book. Today it's Top 5 Wednesday and I'd like to start with the top 5 words I normally use in the introductory part of a Top 5 Wednesday. Number 1, creator. Number 2, Ginger Reads Laney. Number 3, Goodreads group. Number 4, link. Number 5, below. This week's topic is top 5 rereads. So let's look into what I would really like to reread. On number 5 we have the Ravenloft's book. Ravenloft is a dark fantasy series based on the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game. So we have characters that are ghosts, vampires, werewolves, and the whole setting is kind of a fantastical gothic world, and I know that I had a really deep connection to the atmosphere the world had, and I really want to explore again if I feel this kind of connection still like reading this series 20 years later. So I might look into that in the future. Number 4 is Shadowrun. It's another series that is based on a role-playing game, and it's a mix-up of steampunk and fantasy, which is quite unique because you have our world and our world progressed, and you have like the possibility to replace parts of your body by cybernetic like limbs, or even connect to the internet, which is called the Matrix there, via a cable in your head, for example. But on the other hand, magic has returned to the world, and part of the population is converted, or not converted, is transformed into elves, dwarves, orcs and trolls. There are dragons back again, and you have this whole like mix up of technology and magic that was really unique. And the stories told in this world were often like steampunk, sword and sorcery, or not steampunk, cyberpunk, sword and sorcery kind of stories, often from the perspective of like mercenaries that are hired to do extractions or kidnappings from one big giant firm to another. Very magical object chases, really interesting, and this world had a very unique feel as well, and I'd like to experience that again at some point, because none of the more modern authors does that kind of mix-up anymore. Next up is the Rift War Saga by Raymond E. Feist, starting with The Magician, and it's one of the first really classic fantasy series I've read, and I know that I was really immersed in it. It has like everything you would expect, dwarves, elves, but it also does a lot of things differently. So it's on the one hand classical, but with its own unique spin. And I know that I really enjoyed the series, and lately this series came up a few times on BookTube. For example, Eagles Books did reviews about the series, and Caitlin from Kitty G did reviews of the series, of the first trilogy, and that made me think about maybe going back into this world, reading and rereading the first trilogy again, and deciding if I want to continue in this world, because Raymond E. Feist has wrote like I think over 30 books in this world, yeah, and maybe it's time to go back to his world. On number 2 we have a series that would only be a partial reread. It's The Legend of the Five Rings, Clan Wars, and it's a fantasy world and fantasy series that is heavily influenced by Japanese culture, mythology, and yeah, the whole samurai culture. And I've read like the first two, and I think I was in the third book at some point, and yeah, then I kind of lost it. But I own the whole series, and I'm really intrigued by this Japanese mythological and fantasy mix up, and it is based on a trading card game, so it's another series that comes from this from me being like a avid role player, trading card game player in the past, and a lot of things that I've read in my youth were based on things that I would actually play with my friends. And on number one, we have a book I have talked about quite a bit on this channel already. It's Elric of Manny Bonnet by Michael Moorcock. And Elric is a series that has influenced me a lot as a reader. It was like maybe the first tragic or grey character, a non-really hero character. It was like the first series that didn't have the good versus evil theme. It was more like order versus chaos, and during the course of the series we're seeing that neither of them is like really a good choice, or the extreme of it is never a good choice. So there were some very interesting themes in the series, and I've read like a bind up version, so the books were really short books, but I had this huge bind up version of like the first six books, but there are more books in the series, and I've never actually read the other books outside the first six, so that would be something I would be interested in, to read again this bind-up version of the first six and then progress to the remaining books that I don't know. So that's it for this week's Top 5 Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. If you want to know what's coming up on my channel, look inside the description box. There's a little segment there called On the Horizon. I wish you a good day and hope you get bitten by a really good book too. Bye.